30 years since the discovery of a strange disease that transforms humans into giant insects called Kagasters. During these years, humanity lost 2/3 of its population. In a book written by a mathematical called Evolution to the Headless, is the recorded process of the gruesome transformation from human to insect. In the desert wasteland, an exterminator named Kiddo guards the merchant Jin, while he collects scrap from battles with insects. Suddenly, the car being chased by insects drives by, leading the swarm straight to Kiddo and Jin. While making their escape in Jin's car, they lose all their treasure. The car in front of them carrying the young girl named Illy is also under intense pressure from the swarm. While Jin drives through the canyon, he uses his skills as an exterminator to fend off the bugs. Afterward, Jin checks on the other car to see if he can take their supplies, but Illy and her father survived. The father is gravely injured, and with his dying wish, he asks Kiddo to escort Illy to her mother, Tania. Kiddo decides to accept responsibility for Illy, and she wakes up shortly after. She's distraught about her father's fate, but Kiddo is harsh with her and makes her face reality. The group eventually reaches Trade City E5, the city where Kiddo and Jin live. Within the city, a car crashes, and an insect murders the driver. Kiddo's group notices the commotion, and he decides to kill it himself. He distracts the insect with light before decapitating it with his sword. Afterward, Kiddo and Jin bring her to Mario's inn, an inn where they usually rest. Illy meets the friendly owner, Mario, who is also Kiddo's friend. The following day, Kiddo receives news from Mario that Illy has disappeared. However, Kiddo decides it's not his responsibility to look after her any longer. This leads to a disagreement with Mario, who believes that Kiddo should take responsibility for Illy's safety. Kiddo goes to his room and finds a letter from Illy, revealing that she's not afraid of Kiddo, she just doesn't want to be a bother. Out in the ruins, Illy meets a young boy named Naji, who dresses like an insect to scare people off. Naji tells her that this place is the West Gate, and it was lost when someone turned into a Kagaster. Naji takes her to watch the sunset, where Illy tells him about the land she came from. She used to live in a peaceful village where they tended sheep. However, her home was lost, and now her dad is dead too. Naji encourages Illy by telling her that no matter what happens, they'll always be able to watch the sunset. While looking at the sky, Illy is reminded of the Little Boo Peep song she used to sing to the sheep. She tells Naji about Kiddo, and she realizes that he was mean to her, so she can survive the trip to find her mother. Naji's grandfather interrupts and reveals that Kiddo gave them some money to deliver a picture of Illy's dad to her. Illy goes to find Kiddo and apologizes to him. Kiddo tells her that he can't break a promise to the dead, and they prepare to leave on his motorcycle. Kiddo returns Illy to Mario's tavern, where Mario and Jin are excited to see that she's back safe and sound. Escorted by soldiers, a researcher named France Chilio finds Griffith's car crashed on the side of the expressway. It appears that he's actually looking for Illy, and he tells Griffith's corpse that it's been a long time. Meanwhile, Illy has begun working for Mario at the inn. Kiddo and Cassim investigate an apparent Kagaster outbreak but only find 3 corpses and 1 survivor without any Kagasters. Cassim is annoyed that he has to take orders from an exterminator, but Kiddo leaves and goes to the next location. Aisha and Hattie, members of the Anti-Insect Task Force, investigate the mysterious murders. Kiddo realizes that it is not the work of Kagaster or humans. Kiddo is then summoned by a wealthy merchant for an escort mission since he is quite a famed exterminator who hails from the Far East. Also in this job is Cassim from the Allied Army of the East, and he doesn't like exterminators. When Kiddo returns, several exterminators surround him. They are jealous that he gets more earnings than them and want him to share. Since he won't provide for the lazy bums, they start fighting. But when one of them pulls out his gun, he swiftly cuts off his hand, while a mysterious masked man watches in the background. That night, this mysterious man reveals himself to a few of these exterminators and kills them using swords after revealing an insect-like eye. That morning, out by the West Gate, city guards found 4 mutilated bodies. Members of the Red Rats tried to convince Naji to join them, but he refused. The Red Rats are a group of child thieves who work for a girl named Lizzie. Naji ignores them and tells them to be safe after all that's going on in town. The next day, Kiddo and the Unit Demon Task Force hired by the trade director head into the desert to deal with a particular Kagaster. They're able to best it and return to E05 afterward to celebrate. The next morning, Illy goes out to find supplies for the tavern, but ends up getting her bag stolen by one of the Red Rats named Lassen. Naji notices Lassen running and accidentally bumps into Illy. Naji takes Illy to the Red Rats' hideout, where they confront Lizzie and Team Red Rats. Illy and Naji try to get Mario's wallet back from Lizzie, but to no avail. Lizzie challenges her to a game of tag. Illy and Naji agree to a game of tag to get the wallet back from the red rats. The red rats lead Illy on a wild goose chase throughout the city, using every underhanded trick to keep them from catching Lizzie. While Naji looks for them and is surprised to find Illy's clothes stuck in the fence. Soon after, Kiddo catches Naji running around with Illy's clothes. Kiddo and Jin are interrogating Naji. The child with him tells them that the Illy will be at the Westgate Watchtower. At the same time, Lizzie returns to the Westgate ruins, where she's finally tracked down by Illy. Illy catches Lizzie, and they manage to befriend one another after everything. Lassen was waiting for Lizzie at the Westgate Tower when he heard a chant coming from the direction of the killer, who was in the middle of mutilating a victim. Lassen immediately shouted for help, and Kiddo saved the child and confronted the masked man directly. Apparently, this man has been trying to draw out Kiddo, infamously known as the Far Eastern Exterminator. Lassen escapes back to the other kids, while Kiddo engages the masked man in battle. The man wishes to take on another freak in a test of skill, believing that Kiddo is a freak for willingly hunting Kagasters. When Kiddo gets the upper hand in the fight, the masked man reveals he has Kagaster capability, making him a hybrid species. He catches Kiddo by surprise and injures him using extra Kagaster legs. Kiddo is poisoned, dulling his senses, and he demands to know who his enemy is. Noticing Kiddo is in trouble, Illy climbs a wooden tower and screams for help. The Kagaster-human hybrid goes to silence her, but Kiddo moves in time to shoot the man's mask, breaking it and revealing a part of his face. Injured and seemingly distraught, the man immediately retreats. Before Kiddo passes out, he thinks that was the man's only weakness. Kiddo awakens sometime later after getting checked on by Illy. They talk about what happened and end up both falling asleep outside, where Lizzie finds them. Elsewhere, the masked man meets up with the researcher from outside the city. Illy is disheartened. Kiddo is searching her room, which was originally a storeroom. He claims he didn't read whatever he wasn't supposed to read. But then he pointed out that a notebook of hers had poems filled with vocabulary errors. Illy is shocked and mad at him. Sometime later, the city will celebrate some festivals. When Illy was walking in the city, she ran into Lizzie, who invited her to play in their secret underground shortcut. The anti-sect tank squad consisting of Cassim, Hack, and Aisha arrived at the site of the hole, and was tasked with helping the lost sheep because the transport car got swallowed by a sandpit insect. The squad immediately became worried, as they feared that the monster might reach the settlement and cause havoc. Just like the tragic events that occurred 5 years ago, they were forced to close a section filled with bugs and burn it down with people in it so as to cut off the spread. As a result, many kids lost their parents, among them is Lizzie, and they called them murderers no better than those insects. Cassim still regrets that day, and so he agrees to Kiddo's plan and volunteers to lure out the insects hiding underground. The military has already laid out the explosives, and until Cassim receives a report from Aisha that Illy and Lizzie are still underground looking for lost sheep. Meanwhile, Illy and her friends found the sheep but were soon confronted by the monstrous creature. The creature chased them relentlessly, but just in the nick of time, Kiddo arrived to rescue them. He manages to hide with the duo after throwing a smokescreen. The bug presses forward as the military begins shutting down the partitions. The insect comes face to face with Cassim. Cassim thinks the bug is hesitating to move forward because he was once a human and has some of his memories. However, thanks to Lizzie's directions, Kiddo manages to make his way to save Cassim all in the nick of time and let the bug burn to death in the flames. After Lizzie and Illy get out alive, Lizzie talks about how she hates the military because they don't care about them, except for one guy who keeps coming back to look after them. She wants to apologize for the mean things she said, and this has made Illy feel she too needs to apologize for that petty incident. Later, Cassim gives a pendant to Kiddo and hopes he can make up with Illy. He might hate exterminators generally, but he doesn't hate Kiddo as a person. As the festival gets underway, Lizzie talks to Cassim, and this time she manages to apologize and reconcile. However, Cassim got the disease and started transforming into a bug. Hattie has no choice but to shoot him, but is stopped by Lizzie because she feels he has done nothing wrong. With the clock ticking down before Cassim fully transforms into a monster, Kiddo volunteers herself to finish the job. Before he kills him, he asks, "Do you have any last words?" Cassim is still concerned for the kids because he won't be able to give them advice anymore. Hattie is sobbing over his partner's body, while Kiddo returns to the bar all bloodied, leaving everyone in shock. Kiddo gives the pendant to Naji, but in the privacy of the toilet, Kiddo breaks down and lets loose a scream. Illy returns to Mario Gardens, while Kiddo is holing up in his room. While she eats, Mario informs her about the past of Kiddo's adoptive father, Lazarus, who saved Kiddo from the insect monster. Lazarus also led a big group of exterminators. Kiddo followed him around, was trained, and thought about everything he knew about fighting and surviving against the Kagaster. One day, they brought him to a red light district, where he meets the hottest babe in town, Kara. Later, Eduardo Petrov from the military searched for Lazarus' help on a mission. One day, Lazarus and Kiddo, along with a group of other exterminators, embark on a mission to eliminate a Kagaster nest. However, they are ambushed by the Far Eastern military, who believe the exterminators to be rebels. An explosion occurs during the fight, and a stone falls on Kiddo. But Lazarus saves him, breaking his own right hand in the process. Kiddo is not pleased because he was prepared to die. Lazarus then talks to him about his previous life as a servant of God. However, his voice is meaningless in this world of bugs. Soon, he lost his faith and became the leader of the rebels he hated. Lazarus doesn't believe he has the right to be a leader. Suddenly, he is showing signs of turning into a Kagaster. Kiddo is forced to kill him, and he becomes depressed upon realizing he killed his father. Kara tries to comfort him, but Kiddo remains deeply affected by the loss of his mentor and father figure. Kara assures him that no matter what happens, she is always by his side. While some of the exterminators aren't happy with Lazarus' death, some want Kiddo to be Lazarus' replacement and be the organization's leader so as not to give the military any space to step all over them. Petrov comes looking for Kiddo, but Kara, who is shielding him, declines to hand him over. She knows Petrov wants to use Kiddo for his own. Kiddo comes out to hear Petrov's offer. Petrov offers him money to work for him and talks about his life with Lazarus. Though they grew up in the same town and had different beliefs, both believed they were incompetent at doing anything. He then says Lazarus' dead son was named Kiddo, and that he is just his replacement. That night, when military men came into his room to kill him, smart Kiddo had already fled. He vowed not to hesitate anymore, after learning that the God, who bathed his heart in blood and was crucified, would forever be inside him. He left everything to Kara and hoped she found happiness. Kara was sad because this was not what she wanted. In the meantime, Far East forces from the town of E01 are heading towards E05, along with an assassin with the intention of invading. When Kiddo cashes in on his reward and wants to give it to Hattie, he is told that he has already been fired from the military. Hattie informs Naji about Lizzie's scholarship offer from Cassim's final request, who wants to help put her through some school in another city. Lizzie doesn't like this because she wants to remain a small-time thief, but Naji wants her to have a better life and gives her the pendant. Lizzie needs some time to think over this since her wish is to stay with everybody and not lose anyone anymore. With the help of Aisha, who is still in the military, she manages to get records from the military, especially those from 01 who have been coming here lately. There was a Kagaster who fled and didn't kill his victim. Apparently, that was 3 months ago. About the same time, Illy came here. That Kagaster came from Illy's hometown. A witness reported that a bug bowed down before a child before fully transforming and flying away. That child had descriptions like Illy. Kiddo returns to the bar and confronts Illy. He believes they weren't being attacked by insects because Illy was relatively unharmed. Illy was unconscious for the most part, but even if she did remember something, she didn't want to remember it. The bar is then surrounded by military personnel from 01, and they are looking for Illy, but she has fled along with Kiddo. France Chilio knows Illy can't get far since Griffith's spell on her has been broken. Illy doesn't like the idea of running away without knowing anything. Eventually, they have to run because the soldiers have found them. Thanks to the red rats bringing them to their sewer, they are safe for now. Kiddo talks to Illy and suggests getting out of this area. When they do, they become fugitives, and it will be hard to come back. Before they could take some secret route out of 05, suddenly Kiddo was attacked by the killer and forced to deal with him. Kiddo fight fiercely with him and managed to unmask the killer. The kids run away but stumble into a couple of soldiers. They beat and rough them up, especially Naji. Even when Illy agrees to go with them, they want to kill the kids anyway. That is when Illy remembered. Griffith tried to kill her but failed. Then something inside her awakens. She knows children below 15 cannot get an outbreak, so she turns a soldier into a Kagaster and orders him to kill the other. Illy notes the beautiful dream she had, one whereby she woke up and forgot everyone. The military personnel from 01 arrived to capture Illy. Thanks to Illy's sound wave, the killer didn't kill Kiddo. He introduces himself as Itched. He actually gives him a keycard that will give him access to the insect's cage at 7. Then he leaves. Meanwhile, E05 is under attack by the military, which is trying to take it over. It is believed to be the work of a dam. Jin is trying to break the password of a chip found in Illy's diary. How convenient that its name is the password, since the hint closely resembles what he said. Inside this chip is a video of Griffith making a plea to France. Many years ago, Griffith came to the lab where France worked to find a cure for this Kagaster disease. Both became quite close, and France also had a sister, Tania, who doesn't like Griffith much. Also, France is tasked by Adam to create a bug queen. His patience is running thin since France and Tania are unable to do so. France, despite being just 21 years old, inherited Emeth, his late father's work on his Kagaster findings. Based on Emeth's studies, Kagasters are like ants and bees and will act under the orders of their queen. They tried creating a queen from bug eggs, but to no avail. Griffith soon learns that Tania is not actually France's real sister. Tania revealed that when Emeth found a woman's corpse that was nearly turned into a Kagaster, there was a child in her womb. Tania is that child. France didn't say this because people stayed away from her after that. But Griffith doesn't judge people so harshly, and assures them he will always be their friend. Soon, using Tania's unfertilized egg, they give birth to a Kagaster from it, which is itched. Although it is successful, that Kagaster will not attack itched because he is one of them and because he is male, and therefore cannot be queen. Adam calls it a failure. A few years later, it is that time when France decides to marry Tania. Remember, they're not blood related. Soon after, Tania gave birth to Illy. Griffith is then horrified that for the sake of science, they are going to use Tania to become the queen. Tania is okay with this since this is what France wanted. She then entered some strange pod and fell into a slumber, from which she has never awakened since. Griffith learned the truth too late, and couldn't get France to cancel this entire project. It seems Tania will release some sound waves and some latent Kagaster genes within. Those who respond will turn into one. This is viewed as humans evolving into a higher form, which will give better order to society. Griffith argues that they can't tell if children who grow up will turn into monsters. That is why France has prepared a spare queen. Griffith is distraught that he used his own daughter for science. Griffith would not allow this and took Illy away to run. He would have taken it too, but he has already turned into a half-bug and a crazy killer. So Griffith took Illy to run away from the city and live their wonderful farm life. So great and peaceful is this life that they forgot all this atrocity. Until that day, when Illy awakened and turned a human into a Kagaster. Griffith is fraught with guilt that his somewhat emotional state triggered this worst-case scenario. If Illy can't live as a human, at least he will kill her with his own hands. But he couldn't, so he is begging France to save their daughter. Back in the present, Ilya is kidnapped by France and taken into the lab. Kiddo is going to go save Illy, but first Lizzie wants to pass on a message and gives him the pendant. Kiddo agrees to do so if Lizzie takes up the scholarship because it will be an insult to those who never got the chance. With Hattie, they go to see the wealthy merchant with a plan to protect E05. Illy is at 07 as Adam talks to her about how the queen is keeping the insects from attacking them. However, all will soon grow old and die, and that's where Illy's role as a replacement queen comes in. And also, because this cycle will repeat itself, she will bear a child for the next queen. All this for a new world where mankind doesn't have to fear bugs. According to Hattie's plan, first they cover the entire city with smoke so the enemy can't fire. Then the small forces inside the city hijack and jam communications from one soldiers that is already inside. They use the sewer for their mobility and free the other prisoner to join the fight. Kiddo drives out from a different gate, goes to the front gate where the main one force is waiting, and then fires a bazooka at the back of their tank. Then Kiddo drives off to 07 to save Illy. Meanwhile, Mario gets ready for battle because he has a secret stash of weapons that everybody can use. Kiddo enters 07 with the key card. Oddly, insects won't attack him, but the soldiers see him and fire at him. Kiddo gets to run around unscathed. Adam arrives at laboratory and finds out that it has killed a few lab workers, but left France untouched. Adam knows he is going to free Illy, and he orders the soldiers to kill him. Before Illy's escort could do anything to her, Etch saved her and killed her escort. Because Illy still believes she is a tool like her mother, Etch tells her otherwise, claiming Tania did everything on her own accord. Even if every ending is predictable, Illy must choose one herself and not regret it. In other words, she finds meaning in her own life. The soldiers arrive, and Etch pushes Illy into the elevator to escape. Etch says he never hated her, and is glad that she was born. Meanwhile, Mario and the anti-insect tank squad of E05 City are still engaged in a fierce battle against the Far East Army. The offense is over. They now have to focus on evacuating the civilians. Illy enters a room full of sleeping insects. Some soldiers come into the room to look for Illy. Illy awakens the bugs, but before they can devour them, she orders them to stop. She realizes her ability as the Queen of Kagaster. She needs to put an end to this and save her mother. Adam authorizes the power output to gain more authority over the bugs, despite the fact that Tania's body will be under stress. Illy isn't afraid to die, and in fact, she is willing to grant France's wish of not leaving behind any of her DNA. Illy loses her grip and falls to the bottom of the lab. Just in time, Kiddo arrives and rescues her. France betrayed him and held Adam at gunpoint. France claims he doesn't have any affection for his daughter, and his desire is still the same to pursue Ameth's truth on Kagasters. Adam takes it that he has already found the truth. He knows he would never agree with his ideals and only needs funding and equipment. With their mutual interests ending here, France has rewritten some code to maximize the power. The Queen will allow anyone inside the insect cage to feed for an hour. France notes that Kagasters are human evolution, and they will only create a world of bugs. That is Ameth's wish. Adam calls this all nonsense and shoots him. Meanwhile, Kiddo wants to take Illy and escape this place, but she can't go back with him. First, she says she isn't human and can't live normally like them. She fears turning people into bugs again. Also, she has to stop her mother and Adam from controlling the Kagasters. Meanwhile, a few guys from E05 arrive in the city of Azuria to request reinforcements. However, the mayor holds them hostage. He says that a month ago, somebody told him that there would be a possible revolt from E05. He doesn't trust them and believes this is a trap. That somebody is Petrov. Meanwhile, E05 is still engaged in a fierce battle against the Far East Army. In order to protect civilians from harm, city officials are even willing to make sacrifices. When the time is right, they are going to blow themselves up. With all the insects out and feeding, Illy thinks she can use her queen powers to control them. Ilya attempts to use her queen's ability to control the Kagaster, but her efforts prove ineffective. As a result, Kiddo intervenes and manages to rescue Illy, killing the Kagaster and blocking their path in the process. Meanwhile, a few scientists want to escape this place, take all their research, and start somewhere new. However, Ech got in their way with his own agenda for revenge and began to take brutal action against the lab researchers. Kiddo and Illy continue to run, but they manage to escape and enter a secret passageway believed to be the shortcut to Tania's throne. Kiddo will stay to buy time, give the pendant to Illy, and tell Lizzie's message that they'll always be friends. He apologizes for hitting her when they first met, and they both separated with the determination to finish their goal. Illy goes ahead to the throne while Kiddo stays back to stall the soldiers. Illy is determined to reach her mother, and she receives unexpected help from France, who has realized his mistake and is severely injured. Kiddo kills all the men and even survives a suicide attack. His face-off with the dam is short because a random bug crashed in between, allowing Kiddo to nail the killer blow. Kiddo then wanders into the lab, where Ech is and sees him eating the scientists. France isn't dead yet, but it will surely be a slowly painful death. So he continues to explain to Illy how Tania can't be separated from the throne or she'll die. Even so, she will also eventually die as the throne runs out of supplies. Illy scolds him for being selfish and sacrificing everything in the name of science. France's last words to Illy: the choice to become the next queen or live with Kiddo. Illy activates a mechanism to shut down the throne. Ech wants to celebrate the coronation of the new queen by killing Kiddo and tasting his blood. But Kiddo laughs because he isn't a real bug because he doesn't finish eating his prey like other bugs. That is why he hunted exterminators, so that when he was killed by them, he could die as a bug. If he doesn't get killed, he gets another chance to prove himself as a monster. It's time for the final clash between the exterminator and the bug. Meanwhile, Aisha leads the civilians to escape outside. It looks like bad news when tank reinforcements led by Petrov come by. The 01 military thinks reinforcements are here but is shocked when Petrov orders the arrest of Adam's men for treason. He has been trying to catch up to Adam all these years. Back to Illy, the pod is dismantling, and Illy gets to see her mother in the flesh being freed from the throne. Returning to Mario and the E5 city forces, they're struggling to fend off the continuous attacks by Adam's Far East army, still trying to take over the control tower and threatening to kill the hostages. However, with Petrov's reinforcements coming in time, it could have been worse. Petrov orders the commander to surrender, but instead he rants about Adam's ideals before killing himself. Ech senses the death of Tania, and this distraction allows Kiddo to move in for the kill. However, he cannot finish him off as his blade is broken. Ech mocks him because he is not a man. But Kiddo says that every bug he exterminated was human, and he is a man-slaying exterminator. Since Ech can't get his wish anymore, there is no reason to fight Kiddo, so he guides her to where Illy is before parting. With all the water flushed out from the throne, Illy tries to cut the cables connected to her mother. Thank goodness for Kiddo. Etch goes to see France, who is still alive. But then, after France says he loves him as a son, he finally dies. Kiddo and Illy laid Tanya's body to rest and talked about things, like how Kiddo may end up killing humans turned into bugs by Illy. He'll still do his job and take their heads. Until then, he'll hold hers and survive till the very end. Taking a short detour back to E5, the citizens rejoice over their victory. Mario has a secret stash of food, so they can get cooking right away. Petrov burns away the file on Kiddo and notes that he saved Lazarus' son twice. Etched is such a busy kid. After laying France's corpse next to Tanya, he goes to wave goodbye to Kiddo and Illy. Kiddo and Illy have to walk all the way back because Jin has been waiting to pick them up. Kiddo shows his caveman side by picking up Illy on his shoulder and throwing her into the back of the jeep. Kiddo narrates that Illy may regret the choice she made and hate him for it. But until the end of his life, he hopes to hear her answer. Thank you for watching till the end. Please don't forget to subscribe.